Hi guys, and welcome back to the vlog. So like I said last time, I was going to attempt to do at least a vlog each month, and I'm already a bit behind. The last vlog was posted, I believe, on March 1st, and today is April 7th. But, you know, there's been a lot of stuff happening, and that is also what I'm going to be talking about in this video. A lot of stuff happening, but my life has been turned upside down completely since the last time I filmed a vlog, and there's a surprisingly small amount of it that is due to the coronavirus and the Covid-19. Because you guys are not going to believe what happened in March. March was 7 kinds of crazy sauce all put together. Well, I'll tell you all about it. But just so you know, this might be a long one. You might want to get a cup of coffee or a glass of wine or something, because I have a lot of stuff to tell you guys. First off, I'm doing the no makeup kind of thing today because I wasn't actually planning on filming today. I just realized that I was kind of behind on what I wanted to do, and in doing at least a vlog once a month. And also, welcome to the wonderful world of adult acne. I have breakouts about once a month, which will last anything from a week to 10 days, and it's so annoying. And I find that putting makeup on top of the breakouts just makes it worse and makes it last longer. So I'm sorry, you'll have to make do with my clean, no makeup face today, and lash extensions that are pretty much falling out and all that. I haven't been in the right mindset to, to do all of that stuff. So, enough about that. What has happened since last time? Well, I believe last time I had just started working my first job. I had just done my first shift. And I'm working only on an hourly basis, which suits me just fine because it means I can control how much and when I work, which I have found during this month that I really need to have that control, since I have had a major burnout. Because some weeks I can work like 3, 4, 5 days in a row, no problem. But then when I wake up the 6th day, my body doesn't work. It just doesn't work, and I'm kind of, all I can do for that day is kind of just sit around and breathe and cook dinner for my family, and that's all I got in me for that day. So I'm still in a process of getting back after going through a burnout, and I am also learning what it means to get back on the horse again, especially as an employee, which I am again now for the first time in like 16 months. So that's new. I didn't realize it would feel like that. I didn't realize I was still that much affected by what happened. And I'm sorry, I keep waving outside of frame here. But it was news to me. I did not know that I was still so much physically affected by the crash I had in late 2017, and that I am still recovering from that, and that it is still taking a lot of time. So anyway, what I've done is I first accepted 3 different employees. Then I had to say no to one of them because they wanted to schedule me on somewhere between 50 and 85% of the time, and I quickly realized that wouldn't work for me. I needed to be on more of a shorter notice basis, where I can decide week from week, depending on how I'm feeling and how I'm doing. So I said no to them. But then I got an offer from the hospital where if I stay in Sweden, that's the hospital I want to work at as a radiographer. So I got an offer from them, and I started working there as well. And I find that the first two places are like care facilities for elderly people, and at the hospital I do work in intensive care units, different types of intensive care units. This far I haven't had to work with COVID-19 patients, which I'm grateful for, of course. I don't think I'm in a risk group or anything, but still, you know, you have heard all these reports about smokers being more affected than others, and I used to be a smoker, and I don't know if that might be an issue. It's been years since I quit smoking, but you never know. I also have issues with my airways, and my sinuses is something that keeps get very easily infected for me, and this virus is something that really sticks to your airways, and so I don't know, maybe I would be more prone to be one of those people who gets really sick. So I'm happy as long as I don't have to work in direct contact with COVID-19 patients, but if needed, I would, of course I would do it. Yeah, I've been working mainly in intensive care units, and usually what I do, I will be with just one patient the whole time, making sure they don't pull out any of their lines, and that I try to get them to eat, to get some kind of nourishment, and to just get better. And these are usually patients that you can't, if they are left completely alone, they're usually so sick they're not totally aware of what's around them, at least not all the time, and they might, you know, yank their hookups and lines and stuff. So that's what I do, and I find that I really enjoy working in that environment more than working with elderly people. Not because I have anything against elderly people. Most of the people at the hospital that I work with are also elderly people. It's just that I have one patient at a time during the entire session, and one of the reasons I am choosing radiography is because when working with that, I will also just be handling one patient at a time, and there's short patient meetings like all through the day, instead of meeting a lot of people constantly, which is what you do get in a home for elderly people. And that's the part that kind of, it wears me down, and it's part because I'm an introvert. It's just a lot for me, and it's part because I did have a burnout. So I guess the introvert part of me is the kind of the burnout makes it even more obvious that I am an introvert, and that it takes a lot of energy out of me to be social with many people at, you know, like the whole time. So I've realized that that's really not for me, that type of work, and I will probably be avoiding it as much as I can, and I'm hoping that I will be able to get more shifts at the hospital. And I did also have an interview on the radiology department at my hospital. It was just before the whole corona thing just, you know, like exploded everywhere, and you know, they stopped hiring and everything. I got hired by a different department at the hospital just, you know, like days before that all happened. So I'm kind of already in the system, and I'm kind of hoping that they'll be able to offer me some type of work. Usually they don't do that at the radiology department, because you do need to have some type of training. But the fun thing is, when I went to that interview, which, you know, I was amazed that I even got an interview at that department, because I have absolutely no training whatsoever in, you know, any field that would be really applicable for that department yet. But they had like a low level, I don't know what you call that position in Swedish, in English, but anyway, I applied anyway, and they called me to an interview, and I think part of it was because they thought they liked that I was so proactive, and that I tried to get a job with them even before I had started the actual education to becoming a radiographer, and so on. So they were going to look in. This was, I think, about the same week that I went to that interview. I went to that interview on the Monday, and I think it was only a few days later when Corona hit Sweden big time. And I haven't heard anything since then from them, but what they said then was that they were going to look into if there was something I could do at their department going forward, even though I didn't have the competencies to work directly with radiology or anything like that. Maybe I could do something else, just, in the vicinity of, whatever. So I'm kind of hoping that I'm going to get that too eventually. I don't know yet, because the whole corona thing did put everything to a screeching halt, even in Sweden. But my hopes are that I will be able to do that for the summer and autumn and then so on. Oh god, I'm losing my voice already. I'm gonna go grab some coffee. I'll be right back. Okay, now we're talking. So yeah, I'm kind of hoping that I will be able to work mainly at the hospital going forward. And I did do several shifts as on the intensive care, different intensive care units, which I much enjoyed. And like I said, I found that that was a type of job that works a lot better with where I am in recovering from a true burnout. And there's a whole video for you really about the whole burnout thing. I see people talking about getting, like YouTubers getting burned out and all that, and I just keep thinking that, guys, you have no idea what you're talking about. That is not a burnout. That is a loss of inspiration, and a burnout is a completely different thing. It's your body taking over completely, and you cannot control it. You can't decide that. It's not in a way where you kind of feel tired and exhausted and you feel like you can't do anything, and then you can push yourself and you can override it. It doesn't work like that. A true burnout, means that you may wake up in the morning and you may feel fairly well rested and all that, but there's no energy there to do anything. There's no reserves to help you push through or anything. It is just not happening. So yeah, I kind of have to adapt to that, and I'm finding my way through this. I'm learning how to handle it, and sorry, it feels like I haven't been talking in weeks. Yeah, so working at a hospital is what works best for me. Working with just one or a few patients at a time and not a lot of people at the same time works a lot better for me, which is a shame. I have loved when I've been working with older people from the different homes. Sometimes I have accompanied some of them to the doctor's appointments, and sometimes these can take a lot of time. You have to wait, and they are seeing several different doctors at the same time. And I truly enjoyed those encounters because again, that's just one person, and we get to hang out and we talk, and it's lovely. I love that part. It's just when I get like 10 or 15 or different elderly people at the same time, and then I have like 3 or 4 colleagues working at the same time. It's too many people at once for me to handle, I guess, at least at this point. I'm hoping that I will, of course, eventually get to a point where that isn't an issue anymore, but right now it is, and I'll just have to accept that and make the most of it, and yeah. So that's where I'm at with that. I've been working mostly at the hospital, actually. I have had a few shifts at 2 different homes for older people as well. But it's been mostly the hospital, and I'm hoping that I will be able to continue that. I've also learned that I have to know at least the day before when I'm going to work. And I have, for the hospital, there's this online it's the system that I can check into online. And when I mark which days I can work and so on. So I've decided that I have a cutoff time at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. If nobody has booked me for the next day by 5 o'clock in the afternoon, I will change that following day as being busy and they can't book me for anything. Which I also need to do to avoid getting stressed, avoid getting that cortisol going, and yeah. So I'm learning how to handle this whole burnout thing and what I need at this point to make everything work, and I'll just have to take it, day by day and week by week. As for this week, we are heading into Easter now, and I haven't been booked at all this week yet, which is in one way good, because I had, not last week, but the week prior to that was very intense for me. There was a lot of work, and there was a lot of other stuff that I will get back to in a minute. So last week I was drained completely, and I realized that I don't have anything. I mean, this week I have to take the week off, and I had a lot of other stuff that I needed to handle and so on and so forth. So I just, said no to all questions about working, and marked myself as not available at all for the entire week. And this week I haven't been booked at all, which is, on one hand, is good, because I still feel like I need a bit more time to recover, but at the same time I do need money. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. So that's where I'm at with that. I also applied to the university for the education to become a radiographer, and I won't know for sure until I think like 9th or 10th of July if I'm accepted, but I think I will. I am qualified and all, so which they have put on the site now. They have checked, my credentials and decided I do qualify for it, so things are looking good. Yeah. Then again, there was a major thing happening in March, which just was an unexpected and also threw me for a loop, but mainly a positive one. But it was a big loop. Several big loops. And I don't even know where to begin. The thing is, I have two teenagers, a 14-year-old and a 16-year-old. They have, for several years, been living with their dad. Not because I really wanted them to. When they were younger, they lived with me up until age 7, when they start school here in Sweden. They start kind of late in Sweden. Then their dad argued that they had such a good school where he was living and so on and so forth, and it was much better than the school where I was living. And a good education is something that has always been very important to me for my kids, and he knew this, of course. So he argued that, and then I felt that I had to ask my kid how they felt, did they want to try to live with their dad and all that, because it was important to me to get their opinion as well. And of course the child said, yeah, I'd love to try to live with their dad. And it was also important to me to be a very equal parent, to be, that the kids have equal right to both parents, and that I'm not necessarily the better parent because I'm a woman, and all that. I should have stopped and thought more about that, because I'd had some very bad experiences with their dad when we were still together, and this was just a few years later. It took a couple of more years actually after. It took like 4 years after the divorce before I realized what I had gone through with him. And by that time I had already allowed my kids to mainly live with him due to this very, very good school, which turned out it wasn't. And I couldn't take it back, because the thing is, in Sweden, it is where your kids are registered living with that parent, it is very difficult for the other parent, even though you have shared, what do you call it, parental rights, whatever. It's very difficult to change that once you've, you know, allowed the kids to live and be registered as living with one parent. And he wouldn't agree to let the kids come back living with me, and it became a problem. And it's a long story. It's a really long story, and it would be a vlog that's like 10 hours long if I told you everything. Well, maybe not, but it would be a really long vlog. Let's just say that things didn't really go well. And the kids were growing up, and eventually they started to realize that things were off, that things weren't necessarily, it wasn't necessarily a good thing to live with their dad. And first it was my youngest kid who sorry, I'm losing voice. He actually moved to me in February 2018, and he lived here for a year. And ironically, we had a lot of bad luck with the school here. It didn't, well, actually his teachers and the, you know, the social workers and everyone that we were in contact with and had helping us were completely on our side, and we had, you know, we were solving the issues as they came, and, you know, everything was good. Unfortunately, the what do you call it, principal of that school was the kind of guy who, okay, I'm back. I had to take a break to empty my memory card because all of a sudden it was full, and yeah. Where was I? Sorry about the light, by the way. It's getting very, very bright outside, and I don't have studio lights, so yay. Well, I was talking about my youngest kid. He moved here. We had issues at school. We had a plan. We had a good working plan with his what do you call it, homeroom teacher, with his teacher and all of that. Everything was working good until the principal of the school, the kind of, I don't know, he's emotional kind of type of person who started adding these really, really odd tasks to my son's everyday schedule in order, or in an effort to make my kid feel better, I think. And it was just weird. I was furious with him. His teacher was furious with him. Not with my kid, but the principal. And after a year, everything just came crashing down, and my son, we'd be discussing education a lot and how important it is and all that. And I don't really like the school system that we have in Sweden, and I would much rather homeschool my kid, because I do believe sincerely that I could give him a much better education than the public schools in Sweden can. But we're not allowed to do that here. And my kid he came to a place where he felt that he needed to prioritize that as well. And all of a sudden, a year after he had moved to me in February last year, he decided that he was going to move back with his dad, because he felt that at least there, even though it was bad at his school, he was being bullied, and that's a whole nother story, and there was a lot of issues at home with his dad. So he decided he would go back there, because that was an environment that he was used to and that he felt that he could still somehow handle. So he did, and it broke my heart. It broke my heart. Then, in February this year, both my kids, who were staying at their dad's, and then my youngest in particular had just started to notice that things were off with their dad. And I guess along the way, during that year, especially in the autumn of 2019 and this past winter, even the 16-year-old started to really notice that things weren't what they seemed to be. And I'm not going to go into that right now at this point. That's also a whole video in and of itself. We'll see, maybe I'll make that video someday, but not at this point. Anyway, in February things started getting to a point where both kids were talking about moving to me. And I said, sure, you absolutely, I would love to have you. And I've never spoken to them about what happened to me in the years that I was married to their dad, and you know, all the bad stuff that happened, because I always felt that it was something they don't need to know at this point in life, but that I would, of course, tell them later when they were grown-ups themselves and I, you know, turned 18 and so on. But when they started discovering that things were off and they started questioning things and they came to me and had a lot of thoughts and questions, I felt that I'm not going to lie to them, because that is going to bite me in the ass later on. So I answered their questions truthfully and told them bits and bobs of my story with their dad, and I guess I must have sparked a fire, because then a week into March, only days after I filmed my last vlog, the 16-year-old, well, or both of the kids came to me for the weekend, and the 16-year-old declared that I'm not going back to my dad. I'm staying here from now on. So, you know, from one day to the other, he moved here. And his dad was, of course, furious, and he thought that I was handling things very badly. And the thing is, he doesn't know that the kids are starting to realize what kind of person he is. And I felt that it's not a discussion that they should have at this point, because their discovery at this point is so new and so painful, and there's no way he's going to admit to any of it, even though I have documented all the years I lived with him. I documented everything, so there is proof, and there is proof of what he has done to the kids, but he's going to deny it, of course. But so I just told him that, you know what, I don't care what you think, if you think I'm a bad parent because I'm not forcing the kid to come back to you. My kid needs a break right now. We're going to take a week. He's going to stay here. We're going to talk about this, and then we'll see where we're at. And we did. So the 16-year-old and I had a lot of conversation, a lot of discussions during that week, and he was steadfast that he was going to live with me from now on. So I said, okay, we'll make that happen. And then the next weekend, the 14-year-old came back, because he went back to his dad that Sunday, and then he came back again the following weekend. And on the Saturday, and he said that I'm not sure I'm going back to my dad after this weekend. I said, okay, we'll talk about it. And I was working that Saturday, and while at work, I got a text from the 14-year-old saying that he had sent a text to his dad and told him that he was not coming back either. He was going to stay here. He was going to live with me. And I thought that, okay, now all hell is going to break loose. But it didn't. It did a little bit. He was very persistent. He was nagging the kids all the time, but they were holding their ground and, you know, absolutely determined that they were going to stay here. So on March 15th, both of them were registered as living with me. Yay! It's something I've been wishing for all my life. And my 25-year-old also lives with me, which is the first time in years that I have all my kids living under my roof all the time, and being registered as living with me. So in one way it's a dream come true, but at the same time it happened so abruptly, and it had so many consequences for other things that I guess it still hasn't dawned on me that I actually do have all my kids under my own roof now, full time. So maybe I'll get there eventually. By this time, the whole COVID-19 thing had exploded all over the world and in Sweden and everything. And the is it high school level, I think? I guess it is. High school level. All those schools had been closed. And which meant that the 16-year-old was going to be homeschooled. Or not homeschooled, but have his schooling via the computer from the school. But he had to switch schools. And it turns out, first of all, he doesn't go to a regular high school because of things that happened at his dad. He wasn't able to finish his the first, what's he called, elementary school. He left elementary school with pretty much with, I think he had 1 grade in one topic, in one subject, but that was it. So he's been working on, he's on a 2-year plan to get back, to get all those grades, because he needs those to get on to high school and college and all that. And this is one of the things that did not work out well at his dad. It turns out that the school he had started, he was on his first year after elementary school to try to get all these grades. That school is so slow in doing anything. They have not been documenting anything. They didn't even know that I was also a main caretaker for my kids. They thought I didn't exist at all. They just, don't get me started on that one. And it took them weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks before we could get all the papers and documentations from them, and to even get the process started for my 16-year-old to get started to go to a school here, which could offer him the same thing. The thing is, I'm living in a very, very small municipality in the middle of nowhere, and the schools in Uppsala, which is the closest largest city we have, are all full. They didn't have any spots for him at all. So the municipality here didn't know what to do. So I thought, okay, I need to solve this somehow. The days were piling up, the weeks were piling up, and the kid was just losing time and didn't get to continue his work and his education. So finally I found a school in a small city not too far from us, which had something similar. And then I suggested it to the municipality and asked them, would you be willing to pay for him to go to this school? Because our municipality has to pay for that, to buy that service from a different municipality this is. And yeah, they could do that. So they acted kind of swiftly once I had given them an option that that was doable. And that school, they talked to that school, and that school came back with a positive answer that, the 16-year-old could start going there. But then we still had the issue of waiting for all the documentations from his old school, which took forever to get. I mean, he's been here since the first weekend of March, pretty much. And I got that documentation on April the 3rd. So it took a whole month it took for them to get that together. It's all been taking a lot of time, but now we have finally been to the new school, and we've had a tour of it, and we met one of the guidance counselors there. And there are no students there now because everybody is in self-isolation and being schooled via the internet instead. And now we're just waiting for the iPad and the login information that my 16-year-old needs. But this week is like the Easter holiday week in Sweden, which means that nothing happens. So hopefully he'll get it next week, which means that he will have lost 5 or 6 weeks of his school year to just waiting for something to happen, which it's very annoying. And it's been a long process, and I've been talking to this instance, and I've been talking to that instance, and I've been nagging at this school, and I've been talking to that school, and then I've been talking to the municipality. And to make matters even more intense, my 16-year-old is a transgender kid, and he was born a girl. He's now decided he wants to be a boy instead, and he has been going to psychologists and psychiatrists, and he's doing this whole gender dysphoria thing. And we had to transfer that from his old municipality to one closer to us, and things are not moving fast these days. Things are not moving fast under regular circumstances. During COVID, it's a mess. It's a mess. It takes forever to get anything done, and one of the things that we've been told is that for this body dysphoria thing that he needs to go through, it is a waiting period of at least another year. He was going to start it a couple of weeks ago in his where he used to live before. He was going to start it a couple of weeks ago, and I talked to him at length about this and explained that, you're going to have to wait a long time. You may have to wait until next year before you can actually start this. And he was absolutely determined that he was fine with that. He was willing to wait. It was that important to him to be able to live with me now instead of living with his dad. But that was a lot of conversations and discussions as well, both with my kid and with all these different instances that were involved with that, and all the places that we needed to involve on our end. Let me tell you, I've been busy. I've been so busy. So there was all that happening, and then at the same time, a week later, my 14-year-old had decided he wanted to live here too, which meant that he needed to transfer to a new school. In his case, it was a lot easier because I knew exactly what school he would go to. He's in, I guess it would be the equivalent of junior high. He's 14 years old now, and he's been, like I said, he lived with me for a year, and then he moved back to his dad. Things didn't work out there, so a year later he's back here again. So I have to address that. He's not feeling well. He's not feeling good at all in like psychologically. He needs to have help from psychologists and stuff as well, which he hasn't had at his dad, but it's apparent that he does need it now. So I have to arrange for that. I had to arrange for him to get to a new school, and his new school was really, really fast and swift about it, and did an amazing job. And luckily it's not the same school that he went to the last time he lived here. So March has been crazy. My life has been turned upside down with both the kids moving here, all the things I have had to try to arrange for the kids when moving here, and just the thing of getting all their stuff here, because none of them want to meet their dad. They haven't even been wanting to talk to him on the phone or via text. They have been a little bit, but for the most time they've been avoiding it. And eventually we had to go there because both of them came here totally unprepared. The 14-year-old didn't even bring his computer. They pretty much only had like one change of clothes with them. And so all their stuff was there, and we had to go get it. And that had to be done. And then at the same time I'm starting work again and working in all these different places. I'm trying to learn what I need to do. I need to balance everything with the burnout that I'm still suffering from in more ways than I expected to be. March has been quite a roller coaster ride, I gotta tell you. I've had to make like schedules for food for each week, what we're eating, and who's doing what in the house and everything, because I have to have everything organized right now, otherwise I'm not going to survive this whole thing. So yeah, there's been a lot of stuff happening on my end since the last time I filmed, and The majority of it is things I had no idea would be happening. I didn't expect it at all. I had no idea I would be still so much affected by my burnout. I had no idea both my kids would just abruptly move to me, and I had no idea I would be chasing municipalities and psychologists and all that stuff to try to make everything work. And my life has been turned completely upside down, and it has had absolutely nothing to do with COVID. Absolutely nothing. The odd thing is, being a creative introvert means that I'm not very social on a regular basis, in everyday normal life. I have a house full of creative stuff. I have a house full of, yarns and fabrics and all those things, and there's plenty to do at my house, which means that my personal life, aside from the work thing and aside from all the things with the kids, has not changed at all. Not one bit. No joke. It seriously has not changed at all. I leave the house to go shopping, grocery shopping when I need it. And other than that, I stay at home. I do things at home. I cook food, I do creative stuff, I hang out with my kids, started to do a bit of gardening, and but I'm not missing out on anything because I didn't really do it before this happened. So it's a strange feeling having your life being turned upside down and watching, you look at Facebook and you see all your friends' lives have been turned upside down as well, but in a completely different way, in a way that I can't relate to at all, because I don't have any of the issues that they have. I don't feel trapped at home. I don't have a lack of social interaction at all. If anything, I have too much because I started working as well. And I meet a lot of people at work, especially a couple of the places that I'm at. So it's kind of weird. It's kind of weird. Things are completely different from what they were a month ago, a little over a month ago. And yet nothing of it has anything to do with COVID for me. Who knew? Who knew? Anyway, this video is going to be about an hour long, maybe. Hopefully not, but it's going to be a long one. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you're all doing well. I hope that you are not too affected by the whole thing happening in the world right now. I hope you're safe and healthy and all that. And I do hope that what's happening will be something of the past as soon as possible, because I do understand that it affects a lot of people, even though I am not really affected at all. It does affect a lot of other people, and I see a lot of people losing their jobs and things like that, which is horrible, and which is also kind of crazy sauce that for me it has been the opposite. I've had so much work, it's been more than I could handle. I've had to say no to several different shifts that I've been offered. This is actually the first week I haven't been offered anything yet. Life's a crazy place right now. Yeah. So anyway, I hope you're all doing well. I hope you're safe and happy and healthy and all that. And I hope this will all blow over soon. And yeah, I will try to not wait so long before I do my next vlog. Hopefully I will be able to film something else in between as well, but who knows. Maybe my channel for a while now will be about being 47, trying to start your life over, and having a new career and suddenly having all your kids home and trying to manage all of that. I don't know. Maybe that's topic enough for this channel for the time being. Anywho, I'll see you all next time. Bye.